Hey guys, it's Al. I'm reading The Story of Ferdinand by Muna Leaf and drawings by Robert Lawson. Once upon a time in Spain, there was a little bull and his name was Ferdinand. All the other little bulls he lived with could run and jump and butt their heads together. But not Ferdinand. He just liked to sit quietly and smell the flowers. He had a favorite spot out in the pasture under a cork tree. It was his favorite tree. He would sit in the shade all day and smell the flowers. Sometimes his mother, who was a cow, would worry about him. She was afraid he would be lonesome all by himself. "Why don't you go run and play with the other little bulls and skip and butt your heads around?" she would say. But Ferdinand would shake his head. "I just like it better where I can sit quietly and smell the flowers." His mother saw that he was not lonesome, and because she was an understanding mother, even though she was just a cow, she let him sit there and be happy. As the years went by, Ferdinand grew and grew until he was very big and strong. All the other bulls who had grown up in the same pasture would fight each other all day. They would butt their heads around each other and stick each other with their horns. What they wanted most of all was to be picked to fight at the bullfights in Madrid. But not Ferdinand. He still liked to sit just quietly under the cork tree and smell the flowers. One day, 5 men came in very funny hats to pick the biggest, fastest, roughest bull to fight in the bullfights at Madrid. All the other bulls ran around snorting and butting, leaping and jumping so the men would think that they were very, very strong and fierce and pick them. Ferdinand knew that they wouldn't pick him, so he didn't care. He went out to his favorite cork tree to sit down. He didn't look where he was sitting, and instead of sitting on a nice cool grass, he sat on a bumblebee. Well, if you were a bumblebee and a bull sat on you, what would you do? You would sting him, and that's just what this bee did to Ferdinand. Wow, did it hurt. Ferdinand jumped with a snort. He ran around puffing and snorting, butting and pawing the ground as if he were crazy. The five men saw him, and they all shouted with joy. It was the largest and fiercest bull of all, just the one for the bullfights in Madrid. So they took him away for the bullfights in the cart. What a day it was! Flags were flying, bands were playing. And all the lovely ladies had flowers in their hair. They had a parade into the bull ring. First came the ballerinos with the long sharp pins with ribbons stuck to them in the bull and made him mad. Next came the picados, who rode on skinny horses, and they had long spears to stick into the bull and make him even madder. Then came the matador, the proudest of all. He thought he was very handsome and bowed to the ladies. He had a red cape and a sword that was supposed to stick the bull last of all. Then came the bull, and you know what that, and you know who that was, and you know who that was, don't you? Ferdinand. They called him Ferdinand the Fierce, and all the Badarinos were afraid of him, and the Picardos were afraid of him, and the Matador was scared stiff. Ferdinand ran into the middle of the ring, and everyone shouted and clapped because they thought they were going to see a fight with a fierce bull who was going to butt and snort and stick his horns all around. But not Ferdinand. When he got to the middle of the ring, he saw the flowers in the lovely lady's hair, and he just sat down quietly and smiled. He wouldn't fight and be fierce no matter what they did. He just sat and smiled. And the Badarinos were mad, and the Piccolos were madder, and the Matador was so mad he cried because he couldn't show off his cape and his sword. So they had to take Ferdinand home. And for all I know, he's still sitting there under his favorite cork tree, smelling the flowers just quietly. He's very happy. The end.